Welcome to the Networking RX podcast. I'm your host, Frank Agin, founder and president of Spirit Business Connections. Today is another guest day, another great guest day. As ongoing subscribers know, often on this podcast, I'm sharing ideas, insights, and best practices for building professional relationships. But often I will also have subject matter experts, which I'll interview, authors, speakers, thought leaders, social scientists, and these people share their knowledge to help us build better relationships. Today I have Shelley Goldstein on. She's a public speaking coach, so I'm nervous here. I'm being judged, I feel like. But she serves those who speak to connect, inform, and influence others, and helps them do that with confidence, clarity, and courage. And she helps speakers cross the gap between sharing overly memorized, data-driven, lifeless speeches into deep, meaningful programs that they're proud of and impact the audience and resonate. The message resonates. She's been on this communication journey for 25 plus years, and her extensive background in leadership and management in marketing, sales, and design has provided a diverse and unique perspective to her coaching practice. And from her experience and her connections, she works with top business executives across corporate America, across organizations. 2 years ago, she earned a certification as an ultra speaking coach, and she teamed up with another gentleman who Mark Bossert, who at some point I'll get on here, but they have co-founded an organization called Remarkably Speaking, and they serve clients in countries all over the world, from C-suite executives down to the entrepreneur. Shelley, welcome.
Thank you, Frank. I appreciate that introduction. Good to be here.
Well, it's good to have you. Public speaking, what's the saying? Think people are more afraid of public speaking than dying, or something like that. It's right up there.
It's right up there. I believe the percentages are something like 73% of the population. So I work with the 24%.
Okay.
That is no longer fearful of public speaking. You can't cross that threshold because it's just in your head, really.
Yeah. Well, as we were talking about before we hit record, and the reason I wanted to get you on is speaking public. When people think of public speaking, they think of standing before an audience of, whatever, 5, 50, 500, whatever it might be. And in reality, speaking is just communicating, and we need communication to kind of build relationships. And when you are standing in front of one person, that's public speaking. Certainly if it's a stranger, I tell people when I get out and do programs that my minimum audience is one. I won't talk to nobody, but my minimum audience is one. And sometimes that can be scarier depending upon who that person is than a larger crowd. So I really kind of want to delve into the relationship side of, what you coach people on. I'm sure part of it's in their head. What comes out of their mouth is important, but what's coming out of their mouth is certainly formulated in their head and how they feel about themselves. And, like, as you indicate here, the confidence, the clarity, the courage.
Absolutely. And something you said that really is so true. And let's just try to frame this idea.
Okay.
A speech, a presentation, an interview, any kind of work report you have to give, or even a discussion with a friend, is a conversation.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that word earlier. If we just think of speaking as a conversation, we speak publicly all day long, all day long. And to your point, it's one person or more. Public is one or more people. So if we approach every presentation, every speech, it's not limited to the podium, as you were indicating. it's an open conversation so that we're not speaking at somebody or at many people. We're actually having a conversation. And in those terms, not only will you be more effective, but you'll relax as a speaker because you're actually sharing ideas.
Yeah, as you talk, I'm thinking of my own getting out there and getting in front of people, my own speaking, if you will. And no matter how many people are in the room, I find myself not talking to one person, but kind of trying to, the people who are connected, right? The person who's looking at their phone, I just tune them out because that's just too much of a distraction. And there's always that person in the room, right? There's always that person who just can't be bothered, aren't going to laugh. Whatever you say is not going to hit. But then there's always the person who is just smiling and nodding, and it might be several people depending upon the size of the room. And those are the people I end up talking to. So whether it's a room of 40 or 4, I'm talking to 4 people. I guess there's kind of some irony in that. I don't know if you.
Yeah. And here's why. You're 100% right. We cannot control what everybody's thinking or feeling. We will not appeal to 100% of the people. People will not be interested in what we have to say or even care. Our sole purpose is to speak of something that's important to us, and we will connect with those who feel it's important to them. And that's okay, because you're speaking your truth. And then you're passionate and you have purpose. So yes, your audience is those who you're going to connect with. We can't convince people to do something.
Yeah.
We can just inform them in open conversation.
We use the terms, confidence, clarity, courage. What are some things that, you're coaching people on to try and get them to that point? Because I guess I look at it this way. You probably have clients that are coming to you saying, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm an 8, but I need to be a 9. I want to be better. But you probably have a lot of people saying, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm a 3. The 1s and 2s are part of that 90 or 76%, whatever the number you threw out. But people are coming saying I'm a 3, and I just know that there's a greater career for me, a better business.
Oh yeah.
How do I do this? How do I build a relationship through what I have to say? Because let's face it, some people just can't get out of the numbers, right? They can't get out of the very left brain, kind of communicating the jargon, whatever it might be.
Well, that's true. That story is an old story. You've been telling yourself that dialogue for years. I'm nervous, I can't speak, I don't have anything important to say, or it's a stupid question, or or I'm nervous. That dialogue is old. What I do with coaching, what Mark and I do with Remarkable Speaking, it's about getting in a room with high level speakers, professional podcasters that, to your point, are an 8 or a 10, and maybe a 1 and a 2, just a student, maybe a medical student, or a CEO that might be brilliant at entrepreneurship, but can't communicate their ideas effectively to their board of directors, their investors, or to even their staff. We put you in a group together, and it's amazing how you can play off everybody's likenesses, differences, and energies, because the common goal comes out at the end. And we learn from each other. And the whole genesis of what we do is through gamification to take off that, lower the stakes, lower the risks, and say, hey, we're playing a game. And if you think of what it was like when you were younger, playing games, running around, throwing a ball, jumping in the leaves, chances are most of us weren't thinking about the dangers of jumping into a pile of leaves, or are we going to, playing kickball or frisbee, are we going to hit somebody in the head? We just went out and did it. We ran with abandon, and even recklessly sometimes, just to explore and experience. So why not bring that into today's world of speaking? What would happen if? And so playing the games, we allow the clients to just explore. And everybody's in the same playing field because we all have speaking issues, or we think we do.
Right.
And in playing those games, what surfaces is confidence, is clarity, is speaking with intent and purpose in your way. We're not addressing the symptoms. We're going after the root cause so that you can really embody this and understand how speaking can be a conversation.
To what extent does the imposter syndrome play into this? Somebody who, in your mind, is that 8 or a 9. I think nobody's a 10. We can all improve. But they're an 8 or a 9, but they think they're a 4 or a 5 or worse. Is that, do you run into that from time to time?
All day long.
Okay.
And the idea is by playing the games and working in these small groups, so there's always an audience, a small audience. We also do experiential learning and observation feedback. So everybody gets in the group and says, well, Joe, how did you think Frank did? Did he get his one point across? How did he sound? Did you believe what he said? And when that individual who's speaking on the stage, if you will, realizes that what everybody's telling them is different than what's in their head, you didn't sound nervous.
Mm-hmm.
You sounded really confident. I really believe you. And you're thinking, I'm not sure if I was believable. Over time, that dialogue starts to settle down and you start to believe you really are okay. You really do have something important to say because it's important to you. It's an individualistic approach. Turn that off, and all of a sudden that imposter syndrome just isn't there anymore.
Yeah. Well, I think to an extent, we feel that we're a harsher critic of ourselves than other people are of us.
That's right. If you want to know if you're an effective speaker, listen to the audience before you. See how they respond. If they're looking at their phones, you probably need to switch up something. If they're engaged and sitting on the edge of the seat and laughing when you're meant to be funny, feeling when you have something really important and passionate to say, come up to you at the end and say, you know, Frank, that was amazing. Tell me more. That's when you know you're an effective speaker. So it doesn't matter what's happening here. It matters with the audience, how they're responding to what you have to say. Interesting.
Now, you talk about gamification in your work in small groups. I think of gamification. I mean, there's actual scores, or am I misinterpreting what you're saying?
Well, we have games. There are games that are designed that are based on improv.
Okay.
And we can do them in person, or mostly we do it online with the beauty of Zoom. And there are a series of games that are designed to help you feel confidence. They help you feel courageous. They help you explore musicality. So there isn't really a grade on it because everybody achieves at their own level and develops at their own level. But it's the idea of experiencing it and feeling it for yourself. And once you understand that feeling, then you can replicate it. Then you know how to get there again and build the change in behavior. Because it feels really good when somebody connects with what you have to say.
Yeah, you know, it kind of stick with me here. This is going to sound like a random thought. I was asking my wife to show me how to do something on Excel spreadsheet, right? She's a whiz with that stuff. And she showed me and, oh, wow, okay, I think I got it. The next day it was gone, right? It was like, you know, I had notes, the notes are meaningless. You know, it didn't, you know, to what extent do people run into that? I mean, they're in your sessions, they're working with people. The confidence is there, and then they come away and it's like, okay, I don't have my cape on now. You know, I don't have the big S on my shirt in being, you know, in the breakout with these other people. I'm on my own. How do you deal with that?
The whole program that I created is about not only playing the games, but very quickly we transition you into real life scenarios. And the work that's done is when you go out every day and we give you tools, we give you exercises to go out there, talk to the Lyft driver, talk to a colleague, go up to a supervisor and ask them a question. Find these little opportunities to express different ideas in small ways until you become more comfortable with it. It's sort of like, hey, a Lyft driver, you've got nothing to lose.
Right.
All of a sudden, you've made an impact on a human being. Well, now take it up a notch. Bring it into the office. Bring it into your wife. Talk to her about something in a different, more, meaningful way. And all of a sudden you realize, and this does happen, your relationships change with people because you're expressing yourself in a way you never have before. And we all want to. I believe there was a great speaker in all of us. But somehow we have this idea, society says this idea that we can't always express how we feel, or who's to say that there's expression and compassion in business? Well, why do you think we have toxic work environments? People aren't allowed to communicate and say how they feel. Imagine if you had a team of people that you had these open discussions with, Frank, how do you feel about that project? Did it work? Was there something difficult about the way you were doing your job? Well, yeah, this quite didn't work out well. Really, we didn't know that. Let's take this conversation further. When an organization is accepting of those ideas and gives a platform for people to share those ideas, that's how a company grows. That's how people develop relationships, build trust, and feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves.
Yeah. As you were talking about the Lyft driver, it reminded me of a study that I recently read on 10-second relationships, kind of encouraging this, get out and have a conversation with the checkout person, or the server or whatever. And the point of, well, what they determined from the study is it had a huge impact on the person you were talking to. It kind of lifted them up, and by extension lifted you up. But they brought up that other point that you had made is that you just become more comfortable when the stakes become higher, having that conversation. It was kind of a byproduct. That wasn't really what they were looking at, but that's what they found, is that people were just more confident because, I struck up a conversation. I found out where my server grew up, or, whatever. There was something in her voice or his voice, and, just engaged them in conversation.
Yeah, because the high stakes are, what are high stakes? Just because you're presenting to your supervisor or to your board of directors, or you're pitching a client that you desperately want this business, the stakes are high because we fabricate them to be high. We think they're high. But if you're just approaching again, to relationships, if I'm going to give you $100,000 for your business, I would hope we have a relationship.
Right.
I mean, an old boss of mine used to say, you got to date before you ask somebody to marry him. Not always. Sometimes you meet somebody and there's an instant connection. Yeah. But more than not, date a few times, get to know each other before you ask. Well, I'm not going to just throw all my money at you in business, or just go work for you without any kind of trust, relationship, understanding. And the best way to do that is by conversation. And in the system that we create is so that you actually have real life practices on making it happen and using it every day, because there's no use in playing the games if you can't make it work in real life.
Right. Yeah. I guess the other thing that's going through my mind is, I had a conversation earlier today with somebody who they were a realtor, and they kind of fessed up to me that, yeah, I'm kind of brand new to real estate. And I told her, I said, I don't need to know that. If I were you, I would just say, I'm part of a real estate team, and amongst all of us, we have 100 years of experience, and nobody will ever question that 3 months of that is your experience, right? I mean, they'll just, just own it. You know more than they do. And I think that's what trips people up as well. They have this couching language around their expertise or something
language. Absolutely. And so to that point, what if we all gave introductions at a networking group and we didn't mention what we did exactly?
Right.
And we didn't close it with a hard sell call to action. What if we just told a story and led to the idea of why we do what we do, how important it is to us, and this is who I am and this is what I do? What if we tried some of that? Because when you are in a networking room, I know this is your business, I've been in a room, who do you remember? 15 rehearsed business cards? I could read that on your website, the benefits and the features. I could see that on the box label. I could get that on your resume. Who are you? I want to know who you are, not what you do. What you do comes later, but this person you're talking about that may be in a real estate that said, oh, I'm not doing, that person has years of experience as to who they are and what they contributed and how that counts. That counts today. I haven't been a public speaking coach for 25 years. I was in marketing and sales. I was a designer, but that all led me to today to make me the best public speaking coach I am aiming to be. I want to be. I present to be.
Yeah.
All those years of experience add to who we are and what we do and make us more interesting. And that's what makes us unique.
No, that's such a powerful point. I always tell people, don't tell me what you do. Yeah, don't tell me what, because that just begs the question of, okay, so what? I'm a realtor. So what? And I don't mean that in a condescending way, but that doesn't really, I always say, tell me when you do it. Tell me when you fly into action, when you serve people,
Nice.
or why you do it. And that just, it becomes more memorable. Our brains, we generally know somebody's a realtor or an attorney or whatever. So they're not telling us anything we don't already know.
Exactly.
But I like the why as well. Let's switch gears here. Let's talk about remarkable speaking. You've kind of talked about you have group settings. Is that primarily how you work, or I guess share a little bit about that business, that practice?
Well, this business model works where it is 6 individuals in a pod, and we do 6 one-hour sessions over 6 weeks. It's scalable for any organization and individual because time is our money. It also is enough to give us an audience. So we're not speaking by ourselves or just to one person. And yet you have 2 coaches for 6 individuals. There aren't programs that I know of that do that. So you get 2 perspectives with 6 people. So it's real intense, or it's an intensive, I should say, where you get a lot of instruction and a lot of experiential learning. From that process, we run teams. Say, an accounting firm has their accountants going through it, or a auto dealer is having their sales team go through it, or doctors. We've run all, every industry you can imagine.
Sure.
We can run the teams through in small segments, not interfere with the workday, and at the same time advance people and mix it up. We also offer larger workshops that are more free-flowing. So sometimes we get 20, 50 people. Not everybody could participate in that 90 minutes, but it's an opportunity to be in front of even a bigger audience, ask more general questions, and experience different types of different things